questions come to me, I pass them on to you. Let's start with the news. Quick reaction to the news out of Penn State today and yesterday, both the removal of the Paterno statue and the NCAA sanctions announced this morning.
Yeah, look, the sanctions were tough, but I think necessary. And I hope that what we can do now, not just as Pennsylvanians, but I think even people beyond the state are terribly disturbed by what happened. What we ought to do is make sure is to keep our eye on the ball as well. There's still a lot of work to do to make sure that those who are involved in any way, in any kind of a cover-up, any kind of a facilitation of this of the abuse, that they are punished severely. I said in the aftermath of this in the fall, I said two things. Well, three. We're talking about changes in the law, but the first two were just about what has to get done. I said, number one, punish the predator. Fortunately, that's underway, and we'll see what happens next in sentencing. But number two, punish as well those who aided or abetted it. And that process of prosecution will go on, and anyone involved in this should get, as he should get, a very, very long prison sentence.
And the statute, right decision, wrong decision?
I guess I think it makes sense to try as best we can, and as best that in this case the university can, to turn the page and to. But look, the proof of all this in terms of a full measure of accountability will be what happens in the years to come. All of the recommendations, all of the ways to change a culture in a way that would prevent this from never happening again. So there's a lot more to do.
Your Republican opponent is now referring to you as Senator Zero. 324 bills introduced, most within the last year, none enacted. Would you like to respond?
I don't agree. No, I think if you closely follow, or even follow not so closely, how bills are passed in Washington, you often get an idea that's in a bill, and it will go through the legislative process and get changed or amended, or other things will be added to it. And I think when the voters of this state look at my record about it getting results for them, I think we'll do just fine. Whether it's changes way back, going back to 2007 in the Farm Bill, where we got specific changes in the Farm Bill that benefited our dairy farmers, who in 2007, 8, and 9 were living through literally the equivalent of the Great Depression. I'm not sure there's any group of Americans that had a tougher time. And so we went to bat for them and made changes to the Farm Bill. If you look at the work that I did in the payroll tax cut, I led the effort to make sure that cut was in place for a second year in a row. You know, one of the areas of the healthcare legislation which didn't get a lot of attention, but was a brand new initiative for pregnant mothers. If you're a pregnant woman and you're in an especially vulnerable category where you're the victim of abuse, or if you're a woman in college, you could get specific help now because of this pregnancy assistance fund that I put in the bill, in addition to an adoption tax credit, which was over $1.2 billion. Neither of them would have been in the legislation if I didn't act. If you look at the work that we did to change a horrific circumstance for our troops, where you had a number of troops, I guess it went as high as 18 across the country, including one in western Pennsylvania, Ryan Mason. Ryan was a Special Forces soldier in Iraq, had survived all kinds of difficult battles and serving in Iraq. Two brothers serving as well in the military. He goes into the barracks, goes in one night to take a shower, and touches the shower, and he gets electrocuted and was killed. That circumstance for that soldier, and for people, soldiers like him, would still be a problem if we didn't act. His mother, Cheryl Harris, came to me and said, "I want you to do something about this," and we did. We insisted that the Defense Department and anyone else involved, in this case private contractors, but especially with regard to the defense contractor, that they impose electrical standards on these contracts. And so now you have tens of thousands of inspections done and tens of thousands of corrections made to those electrical wiring problems. Now that wasn't a bill, but it was work that I did. So I think when it comes to jobs or a whole host of things for our constituents, I think we can do just fine.
When you first ran for Senate, you criticized the then incumbent for always supporting the president of his party. How do you defend your 95% voting record in support of President Obama?
Well, I think the difference was that when Senator Santorum was asked that question, he didn't have, didn't seem to be able to point to anything where he differed from the president. I mentioned a couple, the South Korea, Colombia, and Panama trade deal, which is a significant difference. It's economic and it relates to jobs in our state. But also China currency has been a significant issue as well. What I did mention was we had a couple of big votes lately that had implications, as I saw them, for Pennsylvania. One was the so-called boiler MAC, the maximum allowable control technology, where most Democrats lined up to support that. I voted against it because I thought it would have an adverse impact on small employers across the state where they were asking for more time to comply, and that was reasonable, especially in light of their economic circumstances. So there was a lot of pressure to vote the other way, but I voted, I guess in that case, against the party and the president. So I think there are plenty of examples like that when I've put Pennsylvania first and voted that.
Given the recent Colorado shootings, please state your position on gun control, any changes you'd like to see, and whether the presidential candidates should address it in the campaign.
I've been a strong supporter of the Second Amendment for all the time I've been in public office, even as a candidate running more than 15 years ago now. Number one. Number two, I don't think that new legislation is going to positively impact the situation that horrified all of us, that nightmare in Colorado. In terms of what the presidential candidates should do, I think they should address it, but I think there are a lot of ways to address this situation other than simply having a kind of an ideological battle about the Second Amendment. One is to make sure that as a country, we're doing everything we can to comfort and to support directly the victims of this. Two, I think we also, in an ongoing way, have to be much more concerned about and determined about strengthening enforcement. I think just in my time in the Senate, there have been many, many opportunities to vote on measures that directly impact law enforcement. Like sometimes it's stopping cuts, like don't cut the cops program that some people want, to put police on the street in communities. Don't cut the burn grants or the justice assistance grants, which go directly to local communities for police and courts and prosecutors. Try to bring to bear investment on new technologies. Cameras. I was instrumental in getting surveillance cameras in the city of Pittsburgh, and the police force appreciated that. In Philadelphia, similar technology, but also even newer technology that allows you to track the direction of a gunshot. So I think there are plenty of ways that we can support police, prosecutors, and law enforcement without just having the usual kind of Washington debate.
Do you agree more with the president's recent "you didn't build it" comment, or more with Mitt Romney's rebuttal of his comment?
Oh. Look, I think what I would say is that, I'll just say it my own way. Everyone knows that when someone builds a business and is successful, they're successful for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons they're successful is they work hard. Usually, sometimes you just get lucky, but often it's probably most of the time, and at least in terms of people I've talked to over the years, it's hard work. You have to study hard in school. You've got to work hard to develop capital, to get access to capital. You've got to take risks that sometimes put you in a jam for a while, and then if you're fortunate enough, you're able to overcome that. All the while, every one of us would acknowledge that you don't do everything on your own. Whether it's roads or infrastructure, obviously we all participate and help that individual, but I think individual initiative and drive and skill and expertise should be accorded recognition in that kind of debate.
Are you doing anything to help Scranton meet an August 1 deadline for a revised recovery plan for state aid, talking to lending banks, for example?
The main thing that I've been doing, and it goes beyond this current crisis, is just trying to get as much as I can in terms of support for communities like Scranton. One of the areas where we've been successful, but it's depending on what you're advocating and depending on what community, is trying to get support for these fire grants that you have an opportunity to, as a city, apply for. And we worked hard, as we always do for every community, to try to get Scranton some help. They were awarded $8 million just a couple of, I think it's about 2 months ago now. And so I think for me to be doing my job as it relates to Scranton or any other community, just to try to get as much in the way of help as I can. And as you know, John, that's, I know it's not your question necessarily, but it's a lot harder to get direct help these days for not just any city or community, but even for individual programs. But it's mostly about getting as much help as we can and to try to urge people to work together. And the good news is they are working together, and it seems like they're going to be able to pull themselves out of the predicament.
How is Pennsylvania going to get proper transportation infrastructure funding?
Pennsylvania. Well, one start, of course, is the transportation bill, which, although there's probably been a diminution in this number, but back in the spring, I guess it was, when we were debating beginning the debate about the transportation bill in terms of final passage, passing that bill meant about 70,000 plus jobs for Pennsylvania. So obviously getting that passed has a job impact and the infrastructure that comes with it. But I would have preferred that in addition to passing the transportation bill, the so-called MAP 21 bill, that we would have also coupled that with specific infrastructure initiatives. We had a vote on it last fall where I supported, and a lot of folks did support a more focused infrastructure bill, but we didn't get the votes on the other side to do it. One of the component parts of that, this is where Washington really goes off the rails, was an infrastructure bank. You had John Kerry and Kay Bailey Hutchison, Democrat, Republican, significant leaders in the Senate in both cases, supporting a $10 billion infrastructure bank to leverage infrastructure investments for really big projects, not a series of small ones, but big, significant projects. You would think when you have a Democrat and Republican supporting a bill for a long period of time, you can at least get that passed. That too blocked, despite the fact that on paper it had bipartisan support. So I think there are plenty of opportunities to be very specific on infrastructure, and we just have to get we got to clear away the kind of the partisan politics.
We only have time for 2 more questions. We've got 4 more questions and we have time. In light of recent Olympic uniform controversy, as ranking member of the Senate Agriculture Committee, would you ask the U.S. Olympic Committee to have the 2014 Winter Game uniforms made from U.S. grown, processed, and manufactured alpaca fleece?
I think that this is unfair for me to answer because I know Monica asked it. But I'm in favor of that. No, we actually sent out a letter to the Olympic Committee and introduced legislation with about 5 other senators, and got a visit the other day from the CEO of the Olympic Committee. And it seems like what they're proposing, and we'll see, we'll still have to take a close look at it, but what they're proposing is commensurate with our bill, so that we don't have that frustrating and embarrassing news that we're not making the uniforms go to USA. So.
And finally, a question with a follow-up. Who do you think is your party's best bet to challenge Governor Corbett in 2 years? Have you considered a run for governor in 2014?
John, it is 2012, and that's what I have to focus on, 2000. I'm really tempted, though, to give you an answer to the first question.
Well, please do.
I think I'll pass.
The follow-up question is, if you are reelected this year, would you pledge to serve out the entire 6 years of your second term?
You mean take a pledge after election?
Yes.
I never heard of it. That's an interesting question, John. Hadn't thought about it.
Apparently, it's not going to be answered, though.
I'll say this, John. I'll say 2 things. Number one is, I really do like to work in the Senate. And I do, because when you're in state government, kind of following after my father's years in state government, you're not sure whether you enjoy the work in the federal government. I love this work, and I'm really privileged to do it, number one. And number 2, I've done a lot of campaigns. I mean, this, if you add them up between primary elections, and I'm glad John did mention the one primary, but this, if you add them up, I think it's 4 and 3, 4 general elections, 3 primaries. And this will be number 8. So this general election ahead of us will be number 8. So I think there are plenty of campaigns in my past, and I hope I don't have too many left in my future.
We thank Governor Kate, I'm sorry.
10 years ago.
It might still be true someday. We thank Senator Casey. We have mementos cleverly hidden in the podium. These are gifts to complement the Transit News and PCM. Thank you all for being with us. Our next luncheon is Monday, August 27th, and our guest will be, as mentioned, Tom Smith, a GOP candidate for the United States Senate. Thank you, Senator.